Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. And hey, thanks for coming out in record numbers. You guys are starting to really watch the show and pass it around. We really appreciate that. That is really amazing. And we have to do something nice for you guys because of it. But we thank you. We'll try to do a good show for you, but keep passing the word around.
That's the least we can do.
That's the least we can do. Keep passing the word around, though, because we do appreciate that. Helps a ton. And we got a lot of stuff. Today we're going to get into Calgary as far as the expansion draft goes. We're going to talk about Russ has another draft pick to talk about. I've got some rumor chart stuff, and then of course we're going to get into the weekend. But you guys have a good weekend?
Yeah, pretty good, not bad. It was nicer than today.
Yeah, I know. It's also raining like crazy here in where Russ and I are in our area.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's really pissing me off right now is that we're mid to late May here.
Yeah,
and I think we've had one day that it's been over 70 degrees. It's been essentially.
You live in Buffalo, Mike. I mean, what are you?
Don't give me that crap because we have nice weather here.
You get 1 month of nice weather in Buffalo.
No. It's more than that. Thank you, Buffalo Chamber of Commerce. No, but and we've had 55 and rainy. Like I can't put my long sleeve shirts away because the temperature won't go up enough. It's annoying as hell. Just as annoying as, again, I have to go down the commercial road here. Time Warner Cable in Western New York, and I think all over, has changed their name. As part of like a merger, they're now called Spectrum. Well, excuse me, they've had about 10,000 commercials telling us they've changed from Time Warner Cable to Spectrum. It's been 2 months of this, and these are commercials that are basically akin to mortuary commercials. It's like, yes, we're now Spectrum.
You know why?
Care.
You know why, right?
Why?
Because if you're a cable service that gets a lot of complaints, what do? You change the name.
Then people can.
Well, no, they merged. I think they merged with.
Whatever, but
they took whoever's name. They took that name of whoever they were merging with for sure. Like
yes.
Fine, I'll take that name.
They were happy to take that name.
Yeah. I got some really interesting stuff to talk about today. Not that this isn't fascinating,
let's start the show.
Just kidding. No, I do understand. I am so sick of commercials. It's weird because I don't watch commercials all that often because I really don't watch that much live TV. So it's just funny to have hockey.
I just looked up the all-time high for today's date in Buffalo, and it said 68 degrees. So screw you, Mike.
It's like 51 right now. That's 20 degrees below normal. 20.
Yeah, I don't know. You choose to live there. It's like
exactly. I mean, it's like you're not landlocked, are you?
This is definitely better than when we're worried about you in the middle of the winter.
I can only afford to live in Buffalo.
6 feet of snow are dumped on top of you. We haven't heard of you for 4 days. That's like a whole different story, isn't it? I mean, that's like survival of the fittest out there. That's like that's why Mike's evolved into such a happy-go-lucky person.
Oh, let's start the show.
Here we go. Ready? Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, May 22nd, 2017.
I'm grumpy Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. Get off our lawn. And you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on.
Wait, actually, I got to stop. I have breaking news.
You can't stop the introduction, Russ.
I
That's
did.
a total foul. Go ahead.
I did. Breaking news. I made up that number about 68 degrees. The actual high would be 66 degrees. That is Buffalo. That's it. You're stuck with it.
I would take 66 degrees. It's not 66.
You broke in to tell me that instead of me saying that this is the Hockey Buzzcast, just HockeyBuzz.com, the podcast comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings of the hockey world. You interrupted that.
Yes, he did.
People live for that. It's a drinking game up in Canada, my little intro. I've heard about it. Believe me, I've talked to people.
Yes, apparently that, along with who is going to be the anthem singer tonight in Nashville. They're guessing. It's a guessing game on who the Nashville singer is going to be.
I think tonight's the time where they've sort of used everybody in the country world, so they need to go crossover. They need to go crossover now.
I need to know one thing about this, though, guys. You're right. I mean, but before we go any further, Mike.
Wait, I got the biggest name. I've got the biggest name.
Go ahead.
If you really want to wow them, you go Dolly Parton.
No, that's too old school. No, but people like Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks and Taylor Swift will be Stanley Cup final singers if they get to the Stanley Cup finals.
Right. So they're waiting on them.
Yeah,
I would tell you what I would do if I was them tonight. I would throw the regular guy out there, and people would go crazy. People would go nuts. People would go nuts. It would be like really great. Like, this is a game that gets to the Stanley Cup Finals, and then you don't have to go back to him again. You're like, you're cool. You got him. You're in there.
And if they lose, he'll get as many death threats as Kelly Clarkson did.
Hey, what about giving Roseanne Barr a second chance at the anthem? She's got her show coming back out. I think it's a perfect timing.
Fine, I'll go and sing the anthem. Gosh,
if there is any sign of the death of television, the fact that the Roseanne show is coming back, which back in its day was funny for a little bit, but the fact that show is coming back is a signal of the death of television.
Here's the funny thing.
There are some sitcoms that, and it's really easy to tell. There's some sitcoms that hold up, and there's some sitcoms that don't.
Yeah.
That doesn't. I watched Alf the other day. Alf does not hold up. But
here's the thing. The guy,
if it says it was a technology, it's completely messed up. Anyway.
The guy who was the boyfriend of the youngest daughter, right? He's now like 45 years old. He does the CBS show that I don't like.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently,
he's like 45 years old, probably.
You remember on Roseanne, there were two girls who played. There was Sarah Gilbert, and then there was the other daughter, and they had two girls who were playing that daughter. One, they're bringing them both back. How can they do that? What are they going to do?
It's like Fuller House. They brought everybody back for Fuller House too. They just didn't care.
Jeez, they're gonna offer alternate scenes where the different girls gonna come in. It's
really what needs to happen for these shows. Like, I know Netflix and people like Netflix wants to put these kind of shows back in the air because
like Will and Grace will be good. I can guarantee you that'll be good.
No, especially I love the woman from Will and Grace was also in Parks and Rec. Oh my gosh,
you mean not Megan Mullally?
Yeah. She's
really great. Yeah.
Awesome. And Deborah Messing is
really good.
Deborah Messing's amazing too, but Megan Mullally, she was amazing. Anyway, all right. So these channels should just do a one-off with these shows. Bring them back for a movie, like kind of thing. Just a single, like bring them back, put them together for one show, and then call it. But trying to do the whole season, that was the problem.
Since we're talking TV for 1 minute,
that's a good beginning to the show.
I have to say, I watched and I'm not going to spoil this for anybody. The season.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday. No, sorry. Go ahead.
That's funny. For Designated Survivor, right? And they showed a lot of car chase scenes. I got to tell you, we're in the year 2017. The fake car chase scene has not gotten any better since Starsky and Hutch days.
Or Adam 12. Remember
How's
Adam
that possible?
12?
Oh man, we've lost everybody under 30.
The fake steering wheel stuff was so bad.
I have the thing analytics here. All the people after 30 just dropped right off. There we go.
Yeah. So much for that boost in numbers.
Maybe under 40. All right. Anton Strawman on Winning the World. It feels fantastic. Now I'm no longer a effing loser. That was a great comment by Anton Strawman. That was actually.
I talked to Russ this morning because I was concerned him being an observer of the New York Rangers that Ranger Nation was going to be upset that William Nylander almost killed Henrik Lundqvist with a celebratory tackle after the shootout yesterday. It was. Yeah. I was watching that game because the Pittsburgh-Ottawa game was not compelling at all when it was 6-0. So I switched to the World Championships and it was in the overtime and it was in the shootout. And it was, it was entertaining. It isn't the top level hockey, but it was entertaining. But like Willie, he could have hurt Lundqvist with that.
Yeah, I think he's probably a big fan, but I didn't watch 1 second. And apparently not a lot of people in Canada did either, by the way. I think the Canadian ratings are down. I just think.
Here's Gabriel Landeskog in the hot tub after the game. Just like,
see, here's the thing. All right,
full gear. Sorry,
I want to stop it right here.
Okay.
I get if you're in Sweden, it's a big deal, right? But here's the thing. At the end of the day, like I kept seeing all these Lundqvist posts, and that's fantastic. But he's won a real gold medal. This is not a real gold medal.
Yeah.
The World Championships is a bunch of guys who didn't get to play in the Stanley Cup, that continue their hockey season and then get to go and have a summer. Yeah. And Lundqvist, this was a great way for him to end the year because it was a frustrating year for him, and he probably wanted to kill his teammates at times. And so I'm happy for the guy. But everybody's making this out to be a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Well, it may be a big deal for Lundqvist in the sense that there's been talk that this is the last time he's going to play internationally for Sweden. And if that's the case, then there was motivation there, and he played great.
Sure,
but
they give him a postage stamp. That's fine.
I've been on the page of the World Championships basically being a, an underwhelming tournament for years because you're not getting best on best.
No.
I mean, usually Ovechkin goes after he loses in the first round of the playoffs, and Russia has an advantage. Or Canada has such a depth and wealth of talent that they have the best team. And this time around they didn't have Crosby. Their best goaltender, their goaltending tandem was a split between Chad Johnson and Calvin Pickard. So, I mean, they had some good players, but it's like, okay, and Canada won 3 in a row and lost this time in a shootout. Really, what do you get? It's like winning the Spengler Cup. I don't get the impact of it. I really don't.
I agree. I don't totally disagree. I mean, this is a tournament for the players, honestly. This is all about them, and they want to do, and their families. This is like a free vacation for some of them. They go over there. Not free. I think they actually pay their way over there.
You know what it's like?
I don't think so.
When you say Chad Johnson's representing Canada, that'd be the same thing as like Peter Tessier filling in for Geddy Lee and Rush. Same thing.
Wow. The quote of the day came from my daughter, I was watching this game in my car as my daughter was practicing with this team she's going to Austria to play with, right? So she's over there and she's in the so I'm sitting in the car watching back and forth between the Ottawa game and this game. And like you, Mike, I was kind of disinterested in the Ottawa Penguins game, so I went to this game. So the shootout begins, and she gets into the car at that point, and she's I'm like, so what's happening? I'm like, well, actually, the whole thing is boiling down to this. I'm like, this is the shootout for the final. It's Canada versus Sweden, and she's like, Canada, aren't there 5 Flyers forwards on that team? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, good luck, Sweden. She's like, I mean, she says to me, it's a shootout, right? I'm like, yes. She's like, I hope they like silver medals.
Oh,
wow.
5 Flyers and losing a shootout was not an uncommon thing to her. So she, my daughter, with a really great stab. I mean, like a really, really gruesome. Like, I'm like, awesome. She knew enough to know that 5 Flyers involved in the shootout against Lundqvist was not a good idea.
No, that was good.
Yeah.
Although in 2010 it was, but that's a different year.
That's the thing. I said that. I said, and she said, who on that? Which one of these Flyers were on that team? I'm like, one.
That's it. One.
And he didn't shoot, of course, because why? Why did Claude Giroux not shoot? He actually is pretty good in the shootouts. Anyway, that's
because we're going to start talking about Ottawa and Pittsburgh, and I have to give special mention to somebody on Twitter, Michael Matthews, who is at mmatthews4, who tweeted to me, last chance for Russ and you to get on X side. So which side of the Titanic would that be?
No. Hold on. First of all, you're a brilliant man, Michael. This guy. His name's Michael too, right?
Yes.
Okay. No, you're right. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you lose 7, 8, and then 10, 11, 12, nothing. I mean, what you saw yesterday with this, first of all, and secondly, okay, no, let me continue on my first point.
Okay.
Firstly, okay, you lose by that kind of number. And it shows me one thing. It shows me how freaking good the coaching has been for the Ottawa Senators. Because what happens, okay, they can play the Penguins as long as they keep it close. But obviously, the second the Senators have to open it up against the Penguins, they're screwed, okay?
Yeah.
And that's what you saw yesterday. Clearly, they can't do it. But they've been, but considering they've played 6 games and they've kept 5 games, without that.
But you remember, like 2 games ago is when I was expecting this kind of game, and it just took a little longer. That's all.
Yeah. No.
I mean, they Pittsburgh scored 3 goals in the first 3 games, and now in the last 2 games have scored 10 goals. So,
right.
Yeah,
that's okay. And that was a great. I mean, listen, the Penguins had a hell of a game yesterday. But then again, here's the other thing that I throw out there. This is going 7. Okay, 100% guarantee you this is going 7 because when teams lose by more than 5 goals in a playoff series, they always win them. They always come back and win the next game.
I'm not guaranteeing anything. But here's the thing. On the 4th goal, Anderson was like holding on to the post. He practically couldn't even stay up on his skates. That whole team was gassed. Mike brought up a great point about the line change, Mike. What was it? They went through 2 or 3 line changes in 1 puck possession?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, listen, the other thing, of course, is, when a team's getting blown away, like the Senators are in that situation, right? They're going to look gassed because every team right now is going on adrenaline completely, and there's no adrenaline anymore when you're down 5-0. There just is none. So you're going to completely, but the fact of the matter is they still just have to win 2 games, and they have to win, and that's all they have to do. And for the Senators to be in that situation, I mean, granted, they're not going to, my prediction of winning in 6 is not going to come true, but
You think you're wrong on that?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go on a limb and tell you that the Senators will not win in 6, but I'm going to say that 100%, even though I never throw the 100% tag on things. That's 100%. But
that's an E5. Okay.
They're winning. I will bet anything you guys want that the Senators are winning Game 6 because there's no quit. When I watch that game, I'm like, this is perfect for the Sens. Like
it's very possible because going back to Ottawa. It's very possible that they could sit back into that 1-3-1 because I mean today it was an optional skate for Ottawa. Burrows, Ceci, Carlson, and Brassard were all absent. Now, and 3 of those guys left the game early. Now, you could say that they left the game early because they were playing hurt and they didn't want, down 5-0. What's the point of playing guys who are hurt? But if any one of those 4, and I mean especially Carlson, doesn't play in Game 6, then throw it out the window because I think the momentum is right now.
Of course, yeah. I mean, Carlson, I agree with you. The others, I think, are somewhat interchangeable with other players. I mean, because that team is just what they are. I'll bet
you your Kermit puppet right there that they won't win Game 6.
All right. Excuse me.
Jeez. No, please don't.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right.
All right, yeah, that's fine.
And here I'll put up as collateral
this, by the way, is signed by Kermit the Frog.
A Patrick Laine rookie. So there you go.
Ooh, there you go.
Versus a signed Kermit puppet. Yep.
Okay.
So you're giving up a signed rookie of the runner-up to the Calder Trophy.
Doesn't matter.
Kermit the Frog is the most famous frog on the planet. I mean, let's just sort of throw it right there. I mean, is Patrick Laine the most famous hockey player on the planet?
No.
No, okay, so there you have it.
I think it's a fair trade-off, so that's what we're betting.
Be fair, and I'm putting Kermit under the bus and under my table right now to tell you that I'm ready for it. All right, so
fine, it's a bet.
But I mean, you have to say, and a lot of people, Rob Rossi and a lot of people were critical of Mike Sullivan for.
Hold on, Rob Rossi was critical of Mike Sullivan. Wait a second, I didn't see that. Hold on,
the changeover from Fleury.
Keep that out, Mike. Hold on.
There you go. When the changeover from Fleury to Matt Murray. And you have to say that looking what
you were critical of Mike. You were critical.
Yeah, no, I still am critical of it, but I'm saying it did work. I mean, because I think they would have done this with Fleury in goal. I
wouldn't have.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think they would have too. I just think Fleury had a bad game,
I think maybe possibly, but I still think that Murray gets another chance to win.
Well, now Murray's the goalie. I mean, that's
yeah.
What you did see is that. The biggest thing that if you want to go the route of Penguins lover here and say that Murray definitely helped them win this thing, you can easily say that what Murray does for them is calm them down. That's unquestionably the case. Like Murray will calm a team down, and they needed to be calmed down against Ottawa.
I think that's fair.
Barring re-injury, Murray's going to carry them the way forward.
But there's a big difference too here. Rust came back. Daly's in good form now.
Right,
now you have a mostly healthy Penguins team, still without Letang, but you're not getting him back. And now this is what I think makes it an impossible task for Ottawa. I would say with a lot of teams, Eck, you're right. When you get a 7-5 to 7-goal win, what you say usually happens. But these guys are different. These guys,
they are, and you're right.
They are the closest things to a repeat Stanley Cup champ that we have had in a while, like a real chance for it.
Legitimate repeat Stanley Cup champions. And they absolutely, I mean, and you're right about that. I mean, they do break the mold on a lot of those,
they do.
When trailing by 2 goals in the third period type statistics or whatever. They are not. But there's a really interesting fact that someone told me about that this is my good stat for the day. And I thought this was amazing. And really, when you consider, you'll love this, Russ, because like when you consider what you've done for a living and what we've seen, being, in an American collegiate, and in supporting hockey in college here in the NHL, here in the States, like we have always done.
Yep.
I can't speak. Sorry. of the forwards dressing for the Penguins yesterday, only Crosby and Malkin did not play in the NCAA. How about that?
That's awesome.
Is that a crazy stat or what? I mean, that is just, who would have thought that would have ever been, this is a repeating Stanley Cup champion, like we just said, and besides Malkin, who's Russian, and Crosby, who's, Crosby.
Yeah.
It's the entire offense is made up yesterday, at least, with that injuries were out. Hornquist isn't there, of course, but, of players who played in college. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you that there's so many guys that you could really plug into a team that make them a very good team. And is it a real fill-in for Hornquist? No, but when you have other great players that you could put with these guys, they're adaptable. Like, they can plug them in. That's the thing I think that is the biggest positive here for them.
Okay, yeah, I do agree with that. And before we move on to the other game, which is the big game tonight, our buddy Rob Volman, who we've had on before, tweeted out something that I really liked a lot. And we should have Rob back on because I want to talk about this actually.
Sure.
We will this summer when all this is said and done, when we get through all the drafts and all the rumors and stuff like that. They're called his translation factors. I don't know if you've seen these guys before, but it's really interesting. This is basically in his opinion, what one NHL point is equivalent to in other leagues. So if you want to say, so I'll show you this, guys. This is how this works. So this is really interesting and just something to look at. I mean, you can follow Rob Volman on Twitter, and you can follow him at Rob Volman NHL.
VOLLMAN.
Yeah, thanks. So here's what he has here. So this is what he has, and this is the situation. Basically, he's saying here, that a 1 NHL point is equal to 0.74 KHL points, 0.58 SHL points. Like that's the 0.47 AHL points. Meaning that so if someone has 50 points in the AHL, he's equating that to 100 points in the NHL. For example.
No. That's the opposite.
Am I missing this completely?
No. If it's 50 points in the AHL, basically he's saying it's 25 points.
Oh, that comes down to 25 points. Okay, so all right. I see what you're saying. Okay,
so multiplying it times 0.47 based on.
Okay, right. So yes, that makes more sense. I'm sorry, but yeah, the idea of this I love though. Just going through all these different leagues and basically equating it down to what he thinks to some of the harder leagues to score in that have less goals and less points.
I don't fully subscribe to it. I would like to see the computation, but again, it's really hard to equate this to other leagues.
It is.
It really is.
No, it is, but I credit him for trying. Like to me, that's like when
Okay, I mean that's fine. I mean,
I like when people think outside the box. Like I've read 100 articles today on the same thing. I just think this is nice. I like when I read something like this that people.
Well, here's one article you won't read. We all give praise to Jim Rutherford, but Randy Sexton, who's the director of scouting for the Penguins, deserves a lot because they have been really, for a team that could have been totally devoid of a pipeline and prospects in their system, and especially since Daniel Sprong hasn't made it yet, and many were saying, well, he's really like one of their only good. Well, they have a lot of good young players and good players that they didn't give up on, like those NCAA players. So you got to give them credit for that.
Yes, I 100% do, and this also goes, to our buddy who was just hired in Buffalo. Like what they've done at Wilkes-Barre Scranton has been phenomenal. And wow. That. I actually met the Wilkes-Barre Scranton, one of the equipment guys the other day. It's a really nice guy. So yeah, it's a big hey out to him. All right, so.
Well, I mean, just as an illustration here, because when Rob put this up, Austin Matthews had 46 points in 36 games in the Swiss League. If you calculate that out, that's like 1.25 points per game. If you calculate that out to an 82-game schedule, it's 104 points. Right. He had 69 points in the NHL, and if you take his amount for the Swiss League and convert it over to NHL, it's only 45 points. So there are outliers. It's an average. So a player like Tom Pyatt, who played in the Swiss League, he may have been under that total. So it's an average. So I think it's interesting, but I don't think it's an exact.
Oh, it's not exact.
It's not exact. I mean, I'm sure it's
constantly tweaking it, which is good. I mean, that's what I like about this kind of stuff. Like, all this kind of, it is interesting that we live in this day and age of statistics, and I'm a huge fan of math, as you guys know, and a huge fan of statistics, but I don't think enough people who do the stats spend enough time tweaking them to figure out, I think they come up with them and they leave them often. I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of that because honestly, like I sat there with my, my predictor that we did towards the end, and it started off one way. And what I did, behind the scenes is I ran 10 different simulations. So when I go back to it, I can look at it. Like I stuck with one and I changed it, tweaked it a little bit, but there was one that was way more accurate than the other 9. So now next year I can go in and use that one. Whether or not that makes a difference or not, who knows? But
sometimes you can't have 10 different Hindenburgs. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. That's really nice of you.
Be a lot of fire if there was.
I know. All right, so let's move on to the big game of the night, and I got a tweet from from our buddy Paul McCann, who actually a text from Paul McCann, who is, as we know, we had on the show the other day.
Yep, he was great.
Again because they lost, but besides that, he said to me he couldn't believe how excited he was, and it was impossible for him to wrap his hands around the fact that his team that he's been with for all these years is one game away from going to Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It's
I
really
expect him to buy me a beer when I go down there too.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, is there anything more exciting? I mean, like we have to do some. If we go down there, Russ, we're going to do a show from down there, for sure.
Yeah, I would like to do it from the Waffle House. I think that would be great.
Well, I mean, okay, and I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer here, but don't.
No, not at all. Wait a second.
Don't count your chickens.
Why do you hate the Predators? I mean, what is the deal?
No, I don't hate the Predators. I actually hate the Predators. I'm just saying, and I really put the blame on the loss on Saturday on the Anaheim Ducks, because when a team goes into Game 5 tied 2-2, and you're without Ryan Johansson and you're without Mike Fisher, you should beat the Nashville Predators. I give the Predators full credit for and I think that the injury to Gibson or whatever the situation with Gibson at the end of the first period, beginning of the second, was a factor because and Russ, you thought Bernier was weak on one of those goals.
Yeah, the backhand goal by Colin Wilson.
Yeah.
He really, Colin Wilson did not have to shoot that high on that because Bernier's not that big. I know,
and it was to Bernier. I mean, in Bernier's defense, it was a double shot kind of, so it was tricky. But
but if he was bigger, he probably would have hit his shoulder.
Yeah, but what is the exact? Because there've been an exact situation because I was at a bar watching this game, so I didn't even hear why Gibson was pulled at the time.
We don't know. We don't know for sure. They I mean, there's some indication that he may have pulled a muscle in his leg, but there's other indications this morning that it may have been an illness. All I know is that, that the one thing with that particular goal, the shot went off the post and in. So even if Gibson was in there, maybe Gibson's further out and he cuts the angle down.
Yeah, because it was middle up on the post. That was my problem.
Never
so more aggressive. But in the end, the fault of that loss was the fact that Anaheim's vaunted offense.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, they were missing Ricard Raquel, who is I think their second best forward.
Yeah.
Second or third behind Getzlaf and Silverberg. He was out of the lineup. He's not going to play tonight. Neither is Patrick Eaves. He was supposedly day-to-day and close to returning. So, they just really didn't show up. They didn't take any advantage of anything on the power play, the limited opportunities they had in the power play. And, 1-1 in the third period, you're leaving yourself wide open to a goal from somebody who normally doesn't score like Aberg did. So, full marks to Nashville. The one thing that I would say is encouraging for Anaheim continues to beat on Nashville physically, and at the end of that game, there was a little chicanery and a little dirtiness going on with Ekholm getting his clock cleaned by Nick Ritchie. They may not be able to get away with that tonight, but I think Anaheim is going to continue to pound their defense, pound Yossi and Subban. And I don't know if Anaheim gets a couple goals, that might be enough because Nashville's offense just isn't there. They may ride the emotion of Bridgestone Arena tonight, but I still think Anaheim is taking this. And this series, I predicted 7, and I think it's going 7.
Mike, do you like grits?
Yeah, I actually do.
You do? Yeah. I don't see why you don't like Nashville. All right. Anyhow.
Well, what is it, Mike? Exactly. I mean, do you have a bet or something? Is this a gambling thing?
No. I just think Nashville. I just think Anaheim is the better of the two teams.
I would say this: you can't count Anaheim out.
No, you can't count them out. I don't think there's any way to.
Getting Gibson back will be something if he's close to 100%. That will help. if I'm Randy Carlisle, excuse me, I'm trying that same play that I did early on against Edmonton to stretch the ice at the very beginning of the game to try and shush the crowd, because that crowd will be the loudest they've ever been in that building. And so if I'm Carlisle, I'm trying to diffuse that early. And even if I have to keep the puck away from Nashville, whatever it takes, I'm going to want to sort of settle into that game with either a lead or nothing. If Anaheim somehow leaves that game the way they left the other one, nothing, they'll feel like it's a win.
If I had any money, and you guys sure know I don't have any money, but if I had any money, I would be flying to Nashville for this game tonight. I mean, I absolutely would be. This is like, to me, that arena is going to be insane. It's going to be crazy. And
what if United gave you a free ticket? Would you go?
What was that?
What if United Airlines gave you a free ticket? Would you?
I would leave this show right now, and I would stop this whole thing, and I would get on. My wife, my dear wife, she wants to go.
He would leave his wife too?
No, I would not leave my wife. She made me promise way back when that if Nashville ever goes to a Stanley Cup final game, that she could go to a game there for a Stanley Cup final.
Well,
so final, I'm gonna have to fly her down for one of these games, maybe. So I don't know.
And this is the thing.
I don't know what an Uber would be to Nashville.
You know what? If she wants to be in the carpool, she could drive.
Trust me, Russ, if she's in the carpool, she is driving, because I'm not driving.
For the fans of Nashville, I hope for their sakes that Nashville does get to the Cup final. It's just for people who don't want Pittsburgh to repeat. I don't think Nashville without Fisher and without Johansson can beat the team.
Pittsburgh against Bernier?
I think Gibson's playing.
No, Gibson's playing right now. We'll see if he's healthy.
Okay, I repeat. Pittsburgh against Gibson, honestly, Gibson, when he was pulled from that game, he was terrible.
Yeah, he was really terrible.
I don't understand why I'm the only one of us three seeing all the technical things that Gibson is doing wrong. And then I give him credit because he's doing incredibly well. If he's
what was the score when he left the game?
What was the score? 1-0.
I'm not saying he's not. Listen,
and then what was the score after? What was the final score of that game?
2-1.
I know. I'm not listening.
No, by the way,
oh my gosh, how many times can you not even be looking the direction the puck is coming from and make a save?
Maybe this will be completely meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but John Gibson is from Pittsburgh.
I know. And
the difference, though, is if they play Pittsburgh, okay, I think there's a little more of a sniper factor to the Pittsburgh Penguins than there is the Nashville Predators.
But my point being, Eck, is that the firepower of the Ducks, if they get to a Cup final and you have Getzlaf, Perry, Silverberg, Raquel, Richie, Eves, and all of them come back against a wounded Penguins team who right now is leading an inferior Senators team. I think Anaheim has a decent shot of winning that series. Nashville, with Rene playing great, with their defense playing wonderfully, but without a number one center, without a number two center in Fisher, I think they have very little chance of beating Pittsburgh. Anything can happen, really.
Here's the thing, though, okay? I mean, it's easy to sit there and say that Anaheim has more offensive talent than Nashville. That's easy to sit there, and they do play more of that kind of a game, right? But the difference here is, remember, the team that has given the Pittsburgh Penguins the most trouble so far in these playoffs, okay? Obviously, the Capitals took them 7 games.
Right.
But that was something, right? That was impressive.
It's been Ottawa, yeah.
Ottawa plays the way the Predators play. They don't play the way the Ducks play. I don't think the Ducks will attack them. The Penguins will counterattack them, and it'll be over before it can start.
I don't think Peter Laviolette's playing in a trap. I think he's trying to. Peter
Laviolette knows how to play the Penguins. I mean, if there's one team he knows how to play, and you're going to sit there, and he's going to sit back and let. He's going to play. He's going to counterattack. He's counterattacking Anaheim, for crying out loud.
Well, it would be interesting to see James Neal soar Sidney Crosby like he's done to other players in the past. So yeah. I mean, there will be compelling stories if that ends up happening. But I'm convinced that Anaheim and Nashville are going to 7. It's going to be really tough for Anaheim in probably the loudest arena they've ever played in.
It will be a tough game.
If Nashville gets up early, then the emotions will just wash over the Ducks.
I mean, it's going to be a hard game for the Predators, players to play because they have to play a very disciplined style, and they're going to be stuck in a very emotional situation. That's a tough game for the Predators to play tonight. This is not a game that I think that I would not be shocked at all if this goes 7, to be honest.
I almost think that, you know, Nashville should sort of play with house money and try to play wide open, because honestly, if they get the lead, if they, at least early on, if they get the lead in that game with that crowd, Anaheim is in trouble. If Anaheim holds 0-0 through the first period and then gets a goal early in the second or something like that, then all of a sudden you're going to feel nerves in that arena.
Here's the weird part. Last year, I get why people were saying what X says about Gibson. He had a 90 save percentage. It was low. They took him out. He's got a 91 point. He's a 918 this year. Like, it's like.
No, I'm talking about just watching him play. I'm terrified.
You are really nitpicking, though. You know that.
No, I'm really not. Like, man, if I had any kind of crew, I would put together play after play. Like, you should sit and, like, we should watch the game together on the phone or something like that, so I can sit there and just explain to you every time I see, because this is the one thing I do understand. Okay, is positioning and goaltending. It is something I did my whole life, and it's something I really do think I know a little bit about. Gibson is. There's so many things he's technically doing wrong, and it's okay to technically do things wrong if you're Dominic Hasek. Or you know, if you're really.
Well, how do you know he's not Dominic Hasek? He's 23.
He is. And when the way Gibson plays, and I played a little bit this way too, so that was part of my problem. Is I was not a solid goalie in any stretch of the imagination, which isn't hard to understand or believe. But I was also a streaky goalie, and I know that that's what happens with goalies like Gibson. They can be streaky. They do strange things, and that's fine. But I would not be shocked if he was indeed hurt, because his recovery from getting up has been really slow the last 3 or 4 games. I thought when he goes down, he's down, like he does that thing.
You may have spotted something, but here's the thing: career-wise, he's 62-37. He's got a 922 career save percentage. He's only 23. Like, to me, that looks like a bright future. To you, it looks like
I don't dislike him. I just think that when you're talking about. And I think that, he could have a bright future, and he could actually get this stuff together too. And I have seen games where he's been very impressive. And for Team USA, they're going to need him to be that way, because he is going to be their guy. I am just simply saying that right now, and even going back a little bit into the Edmonton series, he has been very lucky at times. And it's not. I'm not saying all the time. He's made some great saves, but he has also really gotten fortunate breaks in certain situations, and he does that thing that opens.
Wait a minute. Here's the funny thing. If you're going to start telling me it's about the team, he was in his rookie year, Calder eligible year. He came in 7th for the Calder.
Yeah.
He won the Jennings, shared the Jennings.
It was a great defensive Ducks team.
And he came in 7th for the Vezina.
But that was a great defensive Ducks. And too. I mean, that was like,
you can't just say it's all about the defense.
I'm not saying it's all about the defense. Okay, I know I'm being unfair. I'm just kind of baffled by.
And he played in Game 7 against Los Angeles as a 21.
Right, and that was incredible. And he's been thrown. He has not been handled well, for sure.
No.
He's had moments when he's gotten. There was a moment they were talking about his last couple of Game 7s. He's had problems. I mean, but in Edmonton he played really well in Game 7 and against Edmonton and did a good job. He does. If you've ever played open hockey, like that thing when goalies get tired and they're on their knees all the time. He is on his knees all the time. Now, whether that's tired or whether, and I don't remember that always being his style, so that's why I'm kind of confused by it. Like, I think that there's something.
I don't think he's getting tired. He may have a nagging injury of some sort. That's possible. We know he does now. I mean, that's definitely.
This is what Ben Bishop did when he was hurt. Like, he would go down on his knees a lot because they're tall enough that they can actually go on their knees and still cover most of the net, right? So it's like, that's. We'll see, but I mean, I don't think that a hurt Gibson or / Bernier is going to be a good thing against the Penguins. Okay, like no matter how you slice it, like that's like where Rene actually could beat the Penguins. Like there's a situation where Rene is more suited towards possibly, and also the way.
Here's the funny thing. I don't think Rene has a better chance than Gibson does of beating the Penguins. I think they have about the same chance. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm factoring in Gibson being able to play. If it's Bernier, all bets are off. I mean, the thing is, Gibson may be an unorthodox goaltender, and I won't go down the Hasek road because Hasek is an immortal. Yeah. But how about Tim Thomas? Tim Thomas was an unorthodox goaltender. I mean, the one thing that's interesting is that Gibson is the prototypical size. What was Tim Thomas? 5'10" at most. Yeah. He was
Yeah.
a smaller goaltender, but he flopped around. It was a sort of a hybrid stand-up, flop-around type goaltender that threw other teams off. And Gibson is, I think a classic sort of butterfly goaltender, but he's never in the right position, but it works for him. So, just like knuckleballers in baseball, goaltenders that are unorthodox work.
Yeah, they can. And they can. And they can especially work against certain kinds of teams. I think the Penguins. I don't think that's the kind of team that his style is going to work against.
Well,
That's my opinion. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to expansion draft stuff. But tonight, if you're going to the game, really enjoy yourself. It should be fun. And I definitely want to hear all about it. If you feel free to tweet me at Eklund and let me know, what's going on. Send some pictures. We'd love to hear all about it. It's going to be a fun time there for sure. All right, so let's move on to the Calgary Flames, who are our expansion draft team of the day.
Yeah.
And this is so I'm going to go to planmyteam.com and bring them up right now. This is an interesting team. They actually don't have any players they have to protect. They don't have any players with no movement clauses, which is kind of surprising.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Calgary, they're well set up for expansion. I mean, right now they have to protect a goaltender, and because Elliott and Chad Johnson are both unsigned right now, the goaltender that they're protecting, Gillies is exempt, so the goaltender they're protecting is Thomas McCollum, who, now if they sign either one of the goalies or they sign a goaltender, then they'll. They won't.
That'll change. I'm pretty sure that's going to change.
Or they'll probably end up trading for a goaltender who they'll end up protecting. Forward wise, I mean, obviously they're going to protect Gaudreau, Monahan, Frolik, Backlund, Brouwer. It gets down to Sam Bennett will be protected. They'll probably protect Curtis Lazar, which would leave guys like Lance Boma and Matt Stajan making over $2 million. So Stajan's making $3 million. Even though Stajan's a popular guy and a veteran guy in that locker room, I think that they probably will feel that he's safe not getting picked up by Vegas, making $3.1 million. Defensively, it's easy. Giordano, Hamilton, Brody. They signed Matt Bartkowski to a 2-year deal last year simply to expose, and he actually played well for them, but because Stone and Weidman were UFAs, they needed, and England as well, they needed a defenseman that they could offer as part of that having to have an available defenseman that played a certain amount of games. So that was Bartkowski. But really, they're set up to not lose anybody of any major.
Well, I think they could lose Brett Kulak, and I think he's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay. I mean, I'm not saying he's 23 years old, but I mean, I don't think. I mean, and maybe that means that they trade him, but you're not going to not protect Giordano, Hamilton, or Brody.
No. They're going to protect those guys. I'm just saying, if I could get Brett Kulak, I'm fine with that.
Right. And that might be the way Vegas goes.
Yeah.
Defense to me is interesting because they are loaded with UFAs on defense. Weidman, Engelland, Sneed, Stone, Kotzka.
They could sign Stone, but it doesn't make sense to right now.
Well, they could sign Stone after July 1.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what they probably Smeed's been injured for a while.
Yeah, Smeed's not a player anymore.
Weidman, I think they want to move on past the whole situation with the referee or the linesman. They want to just go a different way. But yeah, to me, they're going to protect their top 3, and hopefully they don't lose Kulik. But maybe they lose one of their veteran guys that they're not protecting. But yeah, I think they're fairly set, and they're set up well for expansion.
Yeah,
I mean, here's my question. You're talking about you're gonna protect Tom McCollum here as a goalie, right? And,
right.
Why not protect one of Brad Elliott or Chad Johnson and just?
Well, you have to sign him first.
You have to sign him. Yeah, I mean, they're both.
Can you protect him, or can you protect him as a UFA and protect his staff?
No, I don't think so. I think that they have. First of all, they have to offer up a goaltender that is at least they will have to qualify McCollum.
Yes.
Before expansion, because they have to have somebody who is under or potentially under contract. You can't.
And that could be why one of these 2 goalies gets signed, so they don't have to do that.
Right. Maybe they signed Chad Johnson for a year, and then McCollum is the one that they right, and that's the thing. Right. You're right. If they have to expose McCollum, offer him a qualifying offer, so they either are going to make a trade for a goaltender before June 21st, which I think is the more likely thing. You know, they could
That's
trade.
a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, they could trade for, say, Antti Niemi,
Right.
or Kerry Lettinen. That's very possible.
Now, the name I heard brought up the other day that they could possibly lose was Tyler Wotherspoon.
Okay.
Does that make any sense to you guys?
Well, hold on.
Tyler Wotherspoon. I mean, you know,
look. I mean, if it were up to me, I would keep Wotherspoon. Let me look at this list again. I might have to go to 8 skaters with these guys. I might have to, because I don't want to lose Wotherspoon. I forgot about
Well,
him.
if you go to 8 skaters, that means you're exposing, because Goudreau, Monahan, you're obviously protecting Bennett, and then probably Backlund. You're exposing Furlick, Brouwer, and Lazar.
Yeah, you know what? I'm doing that. I'm keeping Wotherspoon over Lazar.
Yeah, but I mean, so you think you would lose Lazar over Brouwer?
Yeah, and then I'll lose Lazar in the expansion. So what?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
I think that's the way to go. I actually agree with you, Eck. I didn't realize. I looked over him on the list. I just assumed he was accounted for when we were mentally talking. No, you got to keep him.
Okay, only 22, as we just came off an entry-level contract.
It's gonna be interesting how many teams with the value of defensemen are gonna go 8-1 rather than 7-3-1. I mean,
I think
make a bet on that. I'm going to say that none do. How about that? I'm going to throw it out there.
No,
I think it's possible that none do.
I'm telling you right now that at least I know there's probably at least 4 or 5 teams that will go 8-1.
Yes.
Yeah, like Minnesota is going to go 8-1 and not 7-3-1, because you know if they may have to trade 1 or 2 defensemen just for simply not losing them for nothing.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that's true. Players say teams just hate losing extra players.
They do.
That's why I'm not.
But Lazar's not even one of their guys, so that's why I can see him going.
Very possible.
I mean, it's actually legitimately. So you're talking about losing two more players to protect 8 skaters. Like if you go to 8.
Well, you can only lose 1. But
no, you're talking exposing 2 more. So like,
but here's the thing,
because one's 10 and the other's 8 in a goalie.
But I'm exposing a 31-year-old Troy Brouwer and a Michael Furlick who's been traveling the league for a long time now. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, I guess. I mean, I think that, I don't know, Troy Brouwer would be a really interesting one for McPhee. Like he would.
He's not taking him at 31. No way.
Gotta have some players like that though, and if you're going to get a player like that,
you could get him younger than 31 like that.
And he's just entering year 2 of a 4-year contract. So
they're not taking him.
He's signed through 2020. So that's like $4.5 million. So,
all right, Russ, what do you have for the draft today, Russ?
So I've got Martin Necas, a Czech guy who's a center. He's an interesting one because he's about 5'11", 165, 170. Some people have him in the top 10. I currently have him at 16. I think he'll rise a little bit on my next list. I don't think he'll be top 10 for me, but he is top 10 for some. And again, like I told people, there's a lot of good centers in this list. He is he's among those guys. The thing about him is because he's one of those guys that when he gets into the play, he gets in there fast. I call it fast in the action. Like he doesn't just sort of creep into the play. He gets in there full speed, makes things happen. He's not afraid to go down low. He's a great passer. Like he's a very, very gifted passer. And I think that's his greatest gift, but he has great closing speed to the net. Like he's pretty fearless. So at 5'11", I could, some team is going to want him. I could see him going right around that top 15 mark because centers are hard to come by, and he's a playmaking center. And again, some people value him even higher. Craig Button, I know, values him higher. So
who's in that world? Tampa could be in that place, like a situation.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy. You could see him possibly go in the top 10 if all of a sudden a couple of teams pass on a few defensemen. Yeah. There could be a really big run on centers.
Yeah, I mean those are the predominant positions in this draft: center and defense. And I mean, I keep going back to this, but I keep saying that the draft list of teams are going to be so dramatically different that it is a perfect scenario for deals to be made. Because I mean, I have to use the Leafs as an example. They're picking 17th. If they've zeroed in on one defenseman, that they really like, and I think they're going defense in the first round. It's not going to cost them an arm and a leg to move up 3 or 4 spots to get the guy that they want. They may stay pat at 17, but I think the other teams will be like that as well. If it's 2 or 3 picks and you see the guy that you like there, and you have a hint that a team in between the pick and you is going to take that guy, then you're going to move up and give up something to get that guy. So
Just
I think
to echo about the disparity, I have Isaac Ratcliffe right now at 17th, and I think he's going to drop a little bit, but he's going to still be in the first round.
Right.
We know a guy. We looked at his list. He was like 59.
Really?
Yeah.
Gee. It is such a hard thing to do, but geez, it's like it's fascinating when you see people like, that's like what, 30 away from you.
42 positions is sort of, you're talking an entire round and a half of selections between one projection and another.
And here's the interesting part about it. It's not like Ratcliffe doesn't have everything teams want. He's 6'6". Right now he's 195, so he's a little lean. He basically had 28 goals and 54 points in really his second year in the OHL, and the first year wasn't even a full season. He had 65 PIMs, which shows that he has some aggression. There are some websites that have him ranked 13th, but there's one guy out there, a fairly known guy, 59th.
Wow. It sounds like the kind of player somebody's going to say, "Oh, we had him on our list. He was the guy we wanted all along." Type player, he's going to find someone's going to find that.
So if he goes 15, 16, 17, I'm not surprised. Or if he goes 37, I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Huh. All right, good stuff. Let's go to the rumor chart, and then we will go to a rumor to a little bit of my blog today and rumors that we've been discussing here. I had a really good did good lunch yesterday with a really good source, and I will talk about that in a second. So I wanted to go with these 3 guys today: Matt Hunwick, Alex Galchenyuk, who we've talked about a little bit, and Jordan Eberle. Matt Hunwick, because I've really noticed, like normally in Toronto, and I texted Michael a while ago what he thought he'd do with Hunwick, because I was getting so many mixed signals about Hunwick from different people.
Mm-hmm.
And normally in Toronto, that's not the case. Like it's usually the case that pretty much you can tell they're usually pretty unified. I think that why do you think there are differing opinions on Hunwick?
I think that this is basically a battle between Babcock and Lamoriello, because Hunwick is well liked by Mike Babcock. He's 32 years old. He had a good solid year for the Leafs. He had 19 points in 72 games. He's mobile for a mobile defenseman. He can skate pretty well, and in the last quarter of the season and in the playoffs was solid as a bottom pairing guy with Roman Polak. The problem is he had a good year. Other teams recognize that, and other teams are probably going to be willing to offer him maybe even a 3-year deal, because he can still play in a limited role. I don't think Toronto is. I think they want to bring him back. I think Babcock would like to bring him back, but I think maybe the Leafs are saying 1 year.
Here's my feeling.
Yeah.
My feeling is, if Mike Babcock were the GM, he would sign Matt Hunwick to a Jeff Finger deal.
Yes. Well, not that much. He's not
that high, but you know what I'm saying, to his relative value. And Lou doesn't want any part of that.
Right. I think if it was up to Babcock and it was up to Babcock to make the signing, it would be a 2-year deal at maybe $2 to $2.5 million. I'll bet you Lou Lamoriello is saying 1 year for $2 million. And I'm just guessing here, but I would bet anything that the Leafs are not interested in giving him anything more than a 1-year deal, because he's 32 years old and they're afraid that he's going to drop off the planet in 1 year, and that does happen at that age. But I think Lou, and if you saw, and I've been talking about this in my column, the fact that Lou and Babcock were at the Anaheim Nashville series for a couple games, looking at the Anaheim Ducks and probably looking at Nashville too, because both teams have extra defensemen that they are going to have tough time protecting. That's the direction I think Lamoriello is going to go. He's going to try and trade for a defenseman.
Makes sense. And gosh, I love. For those of you who used to follow along Hockey Buzz podcast years ago, we had the Jeff Finger drinking game. Those people are really happy now that Russ has mentioned Jeff Finger. That's really a long time. It's been a long time coming. I know. been a long time coming for a Jeff Finger reference.
Should we mention Thomas Caberlet too? Should you go down that road too?
No, Jeff Finger was much better to mention. I think.
Matt Sundin, come on, those are the days. All right, Jordan Eberle, because we'll get back to Galchenyuk in a second. Well, actually, let's go to Galchenyuk first. Galchenyuk is still hearing talks between the Canadians and the Rangers. I haven't heard any other teams mention it.
I can see that. Yeah.
It's one of these teams that I'm betting here based on my speculation. Just a little bit more. He's probably going to stay with the Canadians, but that could change. And the other day I had him at 50-50 apiece.
It really depends if I think this one depends on the coach. Depends on Julian, I think.
I would throw in there, even though it would be like a very small percentage. I would throw in the Colorado Avalanche, because you could see a scenario if Bergevin is in on Matt Duchene that would cost them Galchenyuk. Yeah. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. That's
true. I could see that. And Jordan Eberle, who is really one of those players that I've always been a fan of Eberle's. He has really not fulfilled his NHL potential at all compared to what we thought he would do.
Well, and this is the thing. This is I'm trying to be as kind as I can to Peter Chiarelli, but this is the problem with the Edmonton Oilers' mismanagement of current situations. How much could they have gotten for Eberle 2 years ago? I think they could have gotten a big return. And now he has had, I think, the last 2 years middling results. This year, in the playoffs especially, they put him on the fourth line for a time. I mean, they clearly now are looking to move on from him. And at a point where you could have asked for Travis Hamonic from Garth Snow and not be laughed out of the building. I think you would have been laughed out of the building if
I'll give you Calvin DeHaan for him. That's it.
Yeah. And that's not, Calvin DeHaan's a serviceable
player.
Yeah, he's a serviceable 4-5, but you're not talking about a top pairing or a top 3 guy at all.
Oh, that's what.
Yeah, I think the value of Eberle has declined dramatically, and maybe you get a high draft pick or a decent defenseman, but I don't think you get a bevy in return for Eberle.
To me, it's one of those situations where you have to look to the people who really like him, and to me, the people who really like him are still in Montreal. That's I've noticed Montreal's always been the one that's tried to get him. They've talked to him since he got into the league. They tried to move to draft him. They like him a lot. So those people are still there. And so I still think Montreal is going to be the favorite. Although I will tell you that, I decreased Columbus a little bit here because I increased his chance of staying in Edmonton. But Columbus, that's a team that makes a lot of sense to me. Like that would be
I don't think so. I don't see the fit in Columbus. I think they have enough without him.
Russ,
Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? He's going to play center. You know what? They could bring up Sonny Milano and put him at the wing.
Don't you think if they were going to if Columbus was going to trade the assets necessary to trade for Eberle, they would trade for a center instead?
Yes, but the thing is, like I said, they have a center coming. My idea is, if you bring up Sonny Milano, knowing his really great skating and offensive potential, and he is a winger, why would you want Jordan Eberle? He's already a winger, and to me, that's a better fit.
Or
really young. I mean, you want to go? I mean, don't you want to have some? I mean, they're going to lose Gagne. He was a big player for them. It doesn't sound like they're going to resign him. So that's a big. Have some experience back there.
I would rather resign Gagne than trade for Eberle.
Yeah, but he has a year in the AHL anyhow. I mean, he had 47 points left.
No, he's talking
about Sonny Milano.
I'm talking about Milano.
Oh, you're talking about Milano. I'm sorry. I got you.
Yeah, he had a really good year. It was his second year in the A.
Russ, mute yourself for a second.
Yeah. All right. So moving on here to my actual rumors.
Okay.
And I'll get into this. All right. So today, and over the last day or so, we lost Mike. I guess you can unmute yourself for us. I think that was something on Mike's end. I've been hearing more about Drouin for Duchene straight up, and this goes back and forth. And I've heard this mentioned before. There seems to be a couple things happening here. You have Hamonic, possibly going for Duchene. Hamonic possibly going for Drouin. You have Drouin going straight for Duchene. Like I've heard, this is the kind of a triangle that I've seen build up here. And I think that I do think the Islanders are really using Hamonic to try to get that forward that they want to get. And you're going to need more than Hamonic, but that's what I'm hearing right now.
I don't know if they are. That's the scary part. I don't know if they are.
If they can get Drouin or Duchesne for Hamonic?
No way.
I think they may offer somebody else. Here's my problem is Garth is still the guy. And he made this deal with Hamonic. He may not want to go back on that.
Yeah. No, that's possible. But how long is Garth the guy? You know, that's the big question, right? So, I don't know. It's possible.
Well, I mean, okay, I think the echo is you.
I've never heard it, but that's a so.
Yeah, I'm hearing it. It's just me and you, so I'm hearing.
I'll log out.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. The echo is. I think the echo is Zach. So.
Okay. Garth will be there at least one more year. I mean, we know that.
This is the thing. I mean, Hamonic is a good value at. I think he's just under $4 million. He's signed for I think at least another 3 years. So there's value there. But the question is how good is he? And is he a top? I mean, I think he's a top 4. I think he's a second pairing guy. I don't think he's a top pairing guy.
No, he's not a top pairing guy. But the point is, besides being a good player, players like him. He likes his situation, and he fits in the cap really well, especially when you give the boatload of money that you have to give to Tavares.
Right.
Keeping him, you do have cost certainty.
Yeah.
Why am I trading the one defenseman I have with cost certainty?
Yeah, and the thing is that you're not going to get Jonathan Drouin.
No, not alone. No.
For Ryan Pulock.
Pulock, no.
Yeah, you might get him for Hamonic plus. I mean, Hamonic plus a prospect like a Beauvillier or or Delcole or something like that. You know, if Tampa likes them. But I just think, I mean, you know, a trade like Pulock for Eberle. It's like clearly. I mean, I don't know what the deal is with the Islanders with Pulock, because I thought like last year, late in the season, he looked like a really successful.
I watched him in the AHL and he looked great. I just think this was a situation where the new coach doesn't know him. The old coach wanted to go with the veterans. I think this year he'll get his real chance.
Yeah, I mean, if they bring back Seidenberg, now I think they've signed him to an extension already. So
they did.
Yeah, so I mean, and you know, you've got Letty, you've got Boychuk. You know, they may be ready to move on from a Thomas Hickey or a DeHaan or Pulock if that's the price you have to pay to get a winger to play for Tavares, with Tavares. So, yeah, I mean, they could move a Pulock to get Eberle, and then I think that would make sense. But I can't see trading Hamonic for Eberle. I think that's overkill, and I don't think Hamonic is enough for a guy like Drouin or a guy like Duchesne.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think it is. I think it is too. And you know, the other thing I wrote about yesterday was Paul Byron, and the possibility of the Vancouver Canucks moving for him. The Canucks really like him a lot. That's a team that I could, you know, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. But
and that is okay. For those in Vancouver, we're hoping that the trades of Jannik Hansen and Alex Burrows were the first signs of them going to a rebuild. If they're going to sign Paul Byron, then they're back at the precipice of, oh, let's win now, because Paul Byron is not a rebuild player. He's a win now player. And
he's not that old, is he?
Over 30 years old, I believe. 28.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But he's a now player. It's not like it's a 21-year-old. You should be playing Goldobin. You should be playing Jonathan Dahlin. You shouldn't be trading or signing.
Yeah, Paul Byron. I don't think Dahlin's going to make it that quick. Let's ease up.
No. I'm just saying players like that. I'm saying give Jake Virtanen a chance.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be good.
But if they keep loading up with 27, 28, 29-year-old guys.
Like Eck has always brought up, this may be out of Jim Benning's hands, and ownership may force him a little bit.
Right, and then that's the case. Then Vancouver fans should be pissed off at ownership, because ownership is taking them down, the primrose path. It's not.
I think they may already be there, Mike. I don't think some of them, I mean, Vancouver, as polite as Vancouver fans are, and they are really usually pretty darn nice people.
They're pretty fed up. I have friends out there. They're fed up.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a huge swelling undercurrent about this. Yeah, there's no question about it.
They question every move that's made now. They question everything. They question who they should take in the draft. They question every little trade. The defenseman who just went back to Russia, they questioned that. They blamed the team on that. All of these things.
Yeah, you're 100% right. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow. Maybe talking about the Predators in the Stanley Cup Finals. Maybe talking about Game 7 setting up for Wednesday night. And we'll definitely be talking about Game 6 tomorrow in Pittsburgh. So, or in Ottawa, between Pittsburgh and Ottawa.
Are you guaranteeing a Game 6 in Ottawa?
I'm guaranteeing a Game 6 in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
In Ottawa. What? I'm losing my mind. Yes, I'm guaranteeing a Game 6 in Ottawa. I'm sorry. Goodness gracious. Too many things happening here at once. All right. All the multitasking that goes on during this show sometimes is astonishing. Can't even begin to tell you. Remember, without the buzz, folks, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.